Let's jump straight into this explainer of Dr. Michael Greger's game-changing book, How Not to Die. Today, we're unpacking a pretty wild concept, how the literal foods we choose to eat every single day have an absolutely massive, scientifically proven impact on how long and how well we live. It's an incredible look at how we can actually take the steering wheel of our own health destiny.
So let's start with a provocative thought. What if the leading causes of premature death aren't just bad genetics or, the inevitable wear and tear of getting older? What if our deadliest enemies are actually choices we make right on our plates, 3 times a day? We kind of get conditioned to feel powerless against chronic disease, like it's just a bad roll of the dice. But as you'll see, our daily habits wield an unbelievable amount of power over whether we thrive or get sick.
The whole origin of this research actually stems from a really personal story. When Dr. Greger was a kid, his grandmother was sent home in a wheelchair by her doctors, basically told she was going to die from end-stage heart disease. But she didn't accept that. She adopted the low-fat, plant-based Pritikin diet, and get this, she made a complete miraculous recovery. She literally got out of her wheelchair and lived for decades longer.
Which brings us to Section 1, our deadliest health enemies. Every single year, the CDC puts out this list of the 15 leading causes of death in the United States. These are the major killers taking our loved ones way too soon.
We're talking heart disease, cancer, COPD, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, all the heavy hitters. But here's the absolute kicker. Diet plays a massive, undeniable role in preventing or sometimes even reversing almost all of these. In fact, poor diet is the #1 cause of death and disability in the U.S., even surpassing smoking. The food we eat is either fueling these diseases or acting as the ultimate preventative medicine.
Let's move to Section 2, the dietary culprit.
You might think something like atherosclerosis, that hardening of the arteries, just kind of sneaks up on you when you hit 65. Well, actually, scratch that. The damage begins way earlier. Autopsies show that by age 10, literally 10 years old, nearly all kids raised on a standard American diet already have fatty streaks in their arteries. By our 20s, they turn into plaques. So for most of us, it's not even about preventing heart disease, it's about reversing the damage we already have brewing.
And that leads right into Section 3, the plant-based reversal.
Just look at the medical evidence on this. There was a landmark study comparing autopsies in St. Louis, where a heavy meat-eating Western diet is the norm, against Uganda, where folks ate mostly plant-based diets. Out of 632 autopsies in St. Louis, there were 136 heart attacks. In Uganda, exactly 1. 136 to 1. That's practically unheard of.
Now, before we go any further, let's be really clear about what Dr. Greger is actually advocating for here. It's a whole food, plant-based diet. That is very different from just calling yourself vegan. I mean, you can be vegan and live entirely on French fries and soda, right? A whole food plant-based diet is about intentionally packing your day with nutrient-dense stuff like legumes, fruits, cruciferous veggies, and whole grains, while minimizing the processed junk.
He calls it one diet to rule them all, which is a really great way to think about it. You don't need one weird diet for your liver and a totally different one for your brain. This single, holistic dietary approach benefits your entire body all at once. It's like treating the actual root cause instead of taking a dozen different pills to manage your symptoms.
Section 4, a balanced medical perspective. Now, just to be totally fair and impartial here, let's look at what the broader medical community says. While experts universally praise this methodology for empowering people with highly actionable science, they do point out a few caveats. Sometimes the evidence feels a bit cherry-picked, and the tone can get pretty dogmatic about cutting out all animal foods. The main takeaway? Use this as an absolutely brilliant health tool, but just keep a balanced, nuanced mindset.
All right, Section 5, the Daily Dozen Framework.
So how do we actually put this into practice every day? Enter the Daily Dozen. Because not all plants are created equal, Dr. Greger made this daily checklist to make sure you're getting the absolute most disease-fighting power out of your meals. We're talking servings of beans, antioxidant-packed berries, cruciferous veggies like broccoli, dark greens, nuts, whole grains, the whole shebang.
And guys, I really want to stress that this is absolutely not about deprivation. Think about a vibrant quinoa bowl packed with sweet corn, colorful veggies, and healthy fats from avocado. That is a deeply satisfying, incredibly delicious meal that easily knocks out several of those daily goals without feeling like you're missing out on anything.
Or, you can just get your plant-based protein and your cruciferous veggies in one shot with a hearty tofu and broccoli stir-fry over some brown rice.
By simply tweaking the meals you already love to include more of these whole foods, you're literally building an internal defense system against chronic disease.
Which brings us to Section 6, Taking Action Today.
To make this completely effortless, there's a free Daily Dozen app that breaks it down into 3 super simple steps. You just eat delicious meals focused on those whole foods, tap the little boxes in the app to track your servings, and repeat. You don't have to be 100% perfect from day one. It's just an aspirational target to help make grabbing a handful of nuts instead of potato chips second nature.
You know, the former president of the American College of Cardiology, Dr. Kim Williams, really hit the nail on the head when he switched to a plant-based diet to lower his own cholesterol. He simply said, "I don't mind dying. I just don't want it to be my fault. We have the science, right? We know the risk factors, and we have the power to change our own trajectory."
So, leaving you with this final thought. Knowing that every single bite you take is either feeding disease or fighting it, what is the very first, delicious change you're going to make to your plate today? Is it swapping out white rice for quinoa? Tossing a handful of spinach into your morning smoothie? The choice and your long-term health is entirely in your hands. Thanks for tuning in to this explainer.